Hi everyone, welcome to this class. In this lesson, we're going to learn about how to express routines. And the grammar topic for this lesson is simple present. Let's begin. Before we start with the lesson, let's read about Manuel and Lila Vega. Manuel and Lila Vega have a busy lifestyle. Manuel is a doctor at a hospital. He works at night, so he goes to work at 7 p.m. and comes home at 7 a.m. His wife, Lila, works at the bank. She goes to work at 8 a.m. and comes home at 6 p.m. They don't see each other a lot during the week. Manuel and Lila also have two children, Luis and Carla. Every morning, they all have breakfast together at 7:30. Then, Luis and Carla go to school and Lila goes to work. Manuel does the dishes and he goes to bed. Carla usually does her homework at a friend's house in the afternoon. And Luis has soccer practice. Manuel gets up at 4 p.m. At 6 p.m., he has dinner with Lila, Luis, and Carla. After dinner, he goes to work. Manuel and Lila have a busy schedule during the week, but on the weekends, they relax. This is a text about a family's routine. In this text, we learn about all the activities these people do frequently or usually in a daily routine. Now, let's learn about the simple present tense. The simple present tense is used to express habits, routines, or facts. A habit and a routine are two things we do on a daily basis, on a frequent basis, and it's something we repeat several times. A fact is something that is true, something that is real, something that never changes. For example, a fact, something that never changes, is that the planet Earth revolves around the sun. That is a fact. That is something that never changes. Let's see some examples of routines that we read in Lila and Manuel's life. Examples. Manuel and Lila Vega have a busy lifestyle. Manuel works at night. She goes to work at 8 a.m. and comes home at 6 p.m. In this case, we're talking about Lila. Manuel does the dishes. Luis has soccer practice. Luis and Carla go to school. These are some examples about this family's daily life or this family's routine. But we can also observe one fact. The example is Manuel and Lila Vega have a busy lifestyle. That is a fact. That is something real. That is something true. When we talk about the simple present, we also talk about some time expressions. And the common time expressions can be adverbs of frequency or other time expressions. Adverbs of frequency tell us the frequency in which something occurs. For example, it can be never, rarely, sometimes, often, usually, and always. So these adverbs of frequency express something that never happens or something that always happens, something that occurs very, very frequently. The other time expressions are every day, once a week, once a day, once a year, daily, or weekly. In Spanish, every day is todos los días. once a week, una vez a la semana, once a day, una vez al día, once a year, una vez al año, daily, diario, and weekly, semanalmente. We also have to use verbs when we talk about the simple present, and there are some rules that we have to learn about the conjugation of the verbs in simple present. The first rule, or the general rule, is that we need to add only an s to the verbs. For example, speak, speaks, play, plays, eat, eats, sleep, sleeps, listen, listens. That is one rule we use to express the simple present, but this is restricted to the third person, which is going to be seen here. For example, we have the persons I, you, we, and they. And for these people, we use the simple form of the verb. In this case, the verb eat. I eat, you eat, we eat, they eat. But for the other people, he, she, it, we need to add an extra s. Examples: he eats, she eats, it eats. Let's see examples of this rule. Manuel works at night. Here the verb is work and I have to add an s because I am talking about he. Example number 2. Lila comes home at 6 p.m. In this case, the verb is come, but I am talking about she, so I have to add the extra s. She comes at 6 p.m. The next example, Manuel gets up at 6 p.m. The verb is get up, which means in Spanish levantarse, so he gets up. Let's see the rule again. For I, you, we, and they, we use the simple form. But for the persons he, she, and it, I have to add an extra s. There is a second rule, and the second rule is for the verbs that end in s, x, sh, ch, or o, what we have to do is to add an es. Examples: kiss, kisses, fix, fixes, wash, washes, march, marches, and go, goes. It's the same as in the previous rule. For the persons I, you, we, and they, we use the simple form. I fix, you fix, we fix, they fix. And for the persons he, she, it, I have to add es. Examples: he fixes, she fixes, it fixes. Now let's see the examples. Lila goes to work at 8 a.m. The verb go ends in o. I am talking about she, and the rule says if it's for he, she, or it, you have to add es for this verb. The example is Lila goes to work at 9 a.m. Example number 2. Manuel does the dishes. In this case, the verb is do, but I am talking about he, so I have to add es. Does. Manuel does the dishes, which is in Spanish, Manuel lava los platos. The last example is Lila relaxes on the weekend. I am talking again about she. She relaxes. Let's see the rule again. For the persons I, you, we, and they, use the simple form. But for the persons he, she, and it, add es. And the last rule is for the verbs ending in y. In this case, what we have to do is to transform the y for an ies. Examples: study, studies, try, tries, and carry, carries. The conjugations are similar to the ones we saw in the two previous rules. For the persons I, you, we, and they, I have to use the simple form. But for the persons he, she, it, what I have to do is to modify the Y, changing it to IES. Examples: he studies, she studies, it studies. Remember that you also need to use some time expressions. And when we use time expressions, we can use these time expressions to express routines or habits. Here I have some examples. I wake up at 7 every day. Mario always helps his dad. And finally, Luis and Carla never go to school at 3 p.m. Let's see what are the elements we need to use to create sentences in affirmative form in simple present. These elements are a subject, a verb, and sometimes a time expression plus the complement. In other cases, we use the subject, the adverb, the verb, and the complement. What I have is that the time expression goes at the end. I wake up at 7 every day. But in the second example, I use an adverb of frequency and I say Mario always helps his dad. Remember, here we learn that we can use simple present to express routines, habits, and facts. And there are 3 rules of conjugations of verbs for the third person. The rule number 1 is that we have to add only an S. The rule number 2 is that if the verb ends in double S, X, SH, CH, or O, we have to add ES. And the last rule is if the verb ends in Y and before the Y there is a consonant, what I have to do is to change the Y for an IES. And finally, remember that we can also use time expressions and adverbs of frequency. Time expressions go normally at the end of the sentence. Adverbs of frequency go before the main verb. Now it's your turn to work on some exercises. You are going to create 6 examples in which you apply the 3 rules for the third person. That's all for this video. I will see you in the second part.